And without further ado, thank you all again so much for joining the Understanding UCSB pre-majors and the first year applicant process and change of major process. My name is Javon Arias Edwards. I am the Associate Director of School Services here at beautiful UC Santa Barbara within the Office of Admissions. And I know that many of you all have questions about the pre-major status. For those of you that have been newly admitted to UCSB, welcome in. For my prospective students, you might be scratching your head saying, what is a pre-major? We're going to demystify what a pre-major is and also talk about the change of major process in today's session. Now, my colleague Lali once again will be adding some links into the chat for you all to reference at the later point during this presentation. And also, if you have any questions, you're going to use the Q&A at the very bottom of the screen. So for today's agenda, we are going to talk about the three very unique, very distinct academic colleges at UC Santa Barbara. And we're going to talk about admission and selection within these colleges. We really need to have that conversation first before we even start to talk about pre-major and that change of major process. We'll then define exactly what pre-major is, and then we'll talk about the requirements and how students can meet those requirements. Finally, we will talk about the change of major process at UCSB. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the three academic colleges that we have at UC Santa Barbara. We do have the Robert Morabian College of Engineering, College of Creative Studies, and the College of Letters and Science. And within those colleges, we do offer over 100 different majors to choose from. Now, let's go ahead and break down each of those colleges, starting off with the College of Engineering. The College of Engineering at UC Santa Barbara is the smallest engineering program in the entire UC system, University of California system. And small is actually a great thing for our students within the College of Engineering because they're able to have dedicated and meaningful experiences with our faculty members. And they're also able to have a smaller class size and student to faculty ratio, with the College of Engineering having about an 11 to 1 student to faculty ratio compared to our 17 to 1 in the entire university student to faculty ratio. In College of Engineering, there are about 1,900 students enrolled between the five majors within the College of Engineering. That is chemical engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, computer science, and computer engineering as well. Now, please keep in mind that many of you may have heard by now, but we have a new announcement. In the College of Engineering, there is going to be a new major for fall 2027. That new major is artificial intelligence. So we are very excited here at UCSB to welcome a brand new major into the College of Engineering. Now, engineering and the college itself and the five different majors, soon to be six, are highly impacted. That means that they are very selective for admission. When students apply, and for my students that have already applied and been admitted, you are aware of this. But when you apply, my prospective students out there, note that we're going to be looking at a few different things. One of those things is a pre-screening for mathematics. We really want you to have a strong background in mathematics, and we're going to look for you to have at least a pre-calculus course by your senior year. We're also going to be looking at what major did you apply to, because we do admit by major in the College of Engineering. Students must select a College of Engineering major as their first choice major in the UC application process, and we strongly recommend that students select a second choice major in a non-selective program. So again, first choice major should be engineering, second choice major should be something in the College of Letters and Science, ideally. Now, the College of Creative Studies is a really unique college, and I'm not biased or anything. I just might be just a little bit, but I do think it is one of the most unique colleges in the entire UC system. And the College of Creative Studies is really like a graduate program for undergraduate students. It is very small, it is very tight-knit, and it is really focused on research. So students are ultimately providing faculty members with opportunities to partake in their own student-driven research. Yes, I said it right. Faculty members are supporting our students with their own research endeavors in the College of Creative Studies. Now, there are about 370 enrolled students within the College of Creative Studies, so it is very small and, as I mentioned, tight-knit. This college is highly selective for admission, highly selective, in that faculty have a say on who gets admitted. So within the College of Creative Studies, there are 9 different majors, and students can choose a CCS major as either their first or second choice major. Just know that there is going to be a supplemental application that is required and also going to be reviewed by our faculty members because they have a 50% say on who gets admitted, and then the Office of Admissions has that other 50% say. Just like the College of Engineering, College of Creative Studies, we do admit students into the major. Now, the main focus that we'll have today is the College of Letters and Science. Now, the College of Letters and Science is UCSB's largest college by student body and also majors that are offered. There are about 20,000 students within the College of Letters and Science. Now, the college in itself is not considered selective, and that is excluding some of our performance-based majors like music and dance, where we do admit students into that particular major. College of Letters and Science is not selective in that we do not admit students by major. For my students that were admitted into UCSB, once again, congratulations, but major was not a factor for your admission decision. So if you apply to economics, if you could apply to communications, if you apply to history or art, that was not the reason why you got admitted. Your major just was not a factor in our review process. Again, that is excluding dance and music because dance and music, you do have to have some skill set, therefore, an audition is required. Know that students can apply to a major or they can apply as undeclared. Undeclared because, again, major is not a factor. So if you don't know what you want to study for the next 4 years, we don't blame you at UCSB. Go ahead and apply as undeclared. Now, the main conversation of today is pre-major. And pre-major is only going to be a thing within the College of Letters and Science. And College of Letters and Science has some select programs in which students will be a pre-major status if they are admitted into UCSB. So, as a gentle reminder, if you have any questions, feel free to use that Q&A at the bottom of your screen. Now, while we are going to address some Q&A, my colleague again, Lali, will be addressing that Q&A. Let's go ahead and define pre-major for those of you that are a little bit unsure of what that actually means. So, what exactly is pre-major at UC Santa Barbara? So there are going to be some high demand departments within UCSB that are going to have pre-major requirements that must be completed if a student is admitted into that pre-major program. Now, this is going to consist of a subset of required preparatory courses and introductory courses ultimately that are going to be applicable to your degree requirements. So these pre-major courses are going to be courses that you need to graduate. So even if you weren't in a pre-major status, for example, there are certain courses like general education and major required courses that you have to complete in order to get that degree within that major. It's the same conversation for any student that's in a pre-major. We're just going to ask you to complete some of those courses in advance before you get started on more rigorous coursework that is major related. Now, a part of pre-major at UCSB is that students must meet the GPA requirement in those required courses. And later down the line, I'm going to give an example of a few majors, and you can see what those required courses actually look like. Now, the required courses are going to be determined by the department, and students must complete those required courses with an eligible GPA in order to then declare a full major status. And we'll talk about that declaration in just a little bit. Now, the purpose of a pre-major, you might still be wondering. Ultimately, at universities, very similar to UCSB, it is going to create more of a structured pathway for certain majors while ensuring students are academically prepared before they are fully admitted. So know that this offers really structured exploration for our students. It really solidify some of those interests that you might have in econ or within psychological brain sciences. And then it also is going to assist overall with the academic transition. So it's going to really get your feet wet in some of the major related coursework, some of that college level coursework to figure out, is this the right fit for me? Is this the right major? And am I comfortable and feeling confident with continuing my time at UCSB within that major after I get a little bit of a taste of those pre-major courses? Now, the QR code that's at the top right of your screen, that's going to direct you to our UCSB admissions guide. And you're taking a look at a screenshot of that admissions guide and some of the majors within the College of Letters and Science. Now, you're also to the left seeing some of those majors that are kind of highlighted with a red outline. And those ones that are highlighted with that red outline are pre-majors. You'll also notice, and I'll use my little pointer here, that we give definition here exactly what that pre-major status is. And so if there is a major within the UCSB admissions guide that has a blue circle next to it, you will then know that that major is offered as a pre-major. And if you're admitted, you will be in pre-major status and must satisfy the coursework and GPA requirements. We also recommend, and I'll have a QR code later down the line, that students are checking out our UCSB general catalog for additional details because it'll tell you what those coursework and GPA requirements are for each major. Now, on the screen to your right, you are going to see the full comprehensive list of UCSB's majors that have a pre-major status. So, my students that have been admitted to UCSB, it will likely show up in your UCSB applicant portal that, yes, of course, you've been admitted, but it'll also show that you're under a pre-major status if you've been admitted to any of the majors listed on the screen. For those students that are applying or considering applying to UCSB, know that if you're considering film and media studies, global studies, biology, econ, sociology, any of the mathematics majors, then you would be admitted to a pre-major status. And again, you would simply have to complete some of those courses and receive an eligible GPA in those courses to be admitted into the full major. I want to make something very, very clear. If you are admitted to UCSB, you are in. You are in the university. You've done what you've needed to do. If you're admitted into the university under pre-major status, again, you're still in, but we're just going to ask you to complete some of those pre-major courses, and then you'll be into the full major. We'll talk about what happens if you're not able to successfully complete those courses with the eligible GPA later down the line. Know that some of the titles that you see on the screen, those titles are departments. And within the department, you'll see those majors that will have that pre-major status. Now, let's go ahead and talk about what it means to apply to a pre-major. But before we do that, I also want to add some transparency so that you know that this is not just a UC Santa Barbara thing. This is actually a thing amongst a lot of different universities and some of those universities within the UC system. So some UC campuses do have pre-major, or you might hear a proposed major conversation. For example, Berkeley has intended majors specifically within the College of Letters and Science, and it's very similar to pre-major within UC Santa Barbara. UC Davis has pre-landscape architecture. UC Santa Cruz uses proposed majors specifically within the Baskin engineering programs. So know that UCSB is not unique in offering a pre-status for certain majors. Now, the QR code on the top right-hand corner is something that is definitely useful for a resource for you to take a look at some of the eligibility requirements that UCs have. You can take a look at the A through G and GPA requirements, and you can also take a further deep dive look on page 29 that has more information about pre-majors, proposed, and intended majors. Bottom line, I really want to emphasize that applying to a pre-major is going to be the same thing as applying to a major for my students that have not applied and been admitted to the university just yet. So right now on the top, on the right-hand side, you are seeing a screenshot of the UC application, and this student has opted to apply to communications at UCSB as their first choice major. And then you're going to see, again, highlighted with a red box, a little prompt that's going to appear. And this prompt is simply stating, hey, if you're admitted into communication, you're going to be admitted into the pre-major status. So we are letting you know ahead of time when you apply that the pre-major status might apply to the major in which you are applying for. Yes, I said apply a lot of times. Now, again, the UC application is going to kind of detail those conditions of selecting a major that's selective, a major that has a supplemental application, and also a major that is a free major for either your first choice or your alternative major. Now, if you by chance are concerned about, being admitted to a pre-major, which by chance you shouldn't be, should not be concerned, but if you are, for those of you that have not applied yet or plan to apply later down the line, we are going to encourage you to consider selecting a non-selective major and a major that does not have a pre-major status as your alternate major, or if you really want to, as your primary major. But again, it should not be a concern if you are applying into a pre-major. I want to really, really hone in and emphasize that if you are applying to a pre-major, that pre-major designation does not mean it's going to be more selective or more difficult to gain admission. So as a reminder, we talked about it earlier for the College of Letters and Science overview that we had on the very first few slides of this presentation. Letters and Science at UCSB is not selective. It is not selective for admission. We do not admit students based on their major, again, excluding dance or music. So if you're applying to a major that has a pre-major status, know that that pre-major status is not going to influence whether or not you are admitted into the university. It just simply means that you're not going to be fully declared within that major if admitted into the university under that pre-major status. Okay, so let's talk about the students that have gone through this process already, have applied, have been admitted. Now, what are you seeing on your portal? As I mentioned before, this is the CSB applicant portal, and my students that are admitted here today, they would have seen that, yep, the admission status is now changed to admitted and the majors in which they applied to. So this student that we were taking a look at applied to their first choice major, and their first choice major was pre-political science, again, within the College of Letters and Science. Their alternate major was pre-communication within the College of Letters and Science. So we are also telling students after they've submitted the application and get access to their applicant portal what majors they actually applied to. Now, if a student has been admitted to a pre-major, now what? So applicants that are admitted as a pre-major, they're just going to be under that pre-major status. And again, pre-major status is not going to mean that your UCSB admission is conditional. My students, once again, if you're admitted, regardless if you're admitted into a pre-major or you're admitted fully into the major. Your admission is not conditional based on that pre-major status. Your admission for all admitted students is conditional in that you have to meet the steps to enrollment. And some of those steps to enrollment means that you're submitting transcripts, right? You're submitting transcripts and you've received a GPA above a 3.0 weighted. You've received grades higher than a C or at a C. If you get a C minus, that's okay in our eyes, as long as you have above or at a C in your senior year. So those are some of the terms and conditions of your enrollment, which means yes, your admission is conditional until you complete those terms and conditions. All right. Now, admission, if you are currently in a pre-major, you've been admitted to university, but does not guarantee per se admission into the major at a later point. It's really on you to ensure that you are successfully completing those pre-major course requirements and getting an eligible GPA. And all of that is set by the department, not the Office of Admissions. So let's talk about meeting the requirements, shall we? All right, so let's talk about these department requirements. Now, on the screen, you are taking a look at a pre-major sheet. And this pre-major sheet is specifically for pre-communications BA program. Now, once again, I'll ask my colleague Silali to go ahead and share our UCSB General Catalog link into the chat, but you might have gotten a chance already to scan the QR code previously. I'll have that QR code back up in a second, but as we move forward, I just want to give you an overview of what you would see on the General Catalog. You'd firstly see a download PDF version, and then you'd also see the web page version. So you have the option to download that PDF or just simply take a look at the journal catalog as it's shown on the web page. You're going to see the courses that are required under that pre-major. And you're also going to see the grade requirements. Now, there are some grade requirements in which students cannot receive below a B, and there are more typically some grade requirements in which students cannot receive below a C minus. So it really varies program to program. Some departments have set that you must have a B or higher. Some departments have set a C minus or higher. So you'll want to pay attention to what those grade requirements are per course. The GPA is a separate conversation, and this is again going to vary by department and major. So, most do require pre-major courses to be completed with an average of a 2.0 in between a 3.0 GPA. Again, it's going to vary. There's also going to be a timeline set for students to complete some of those coursework requirements. Most departments will typically require these to be met prior to your junior year, or they are utilizing a unit threshold. For example, you cannot exceed 90 units without completing your pre-major requirements. So you want to be mindful of what is the timeline set. Again, for the most part, it's usually that you need to complete these pre-major requirements before the start of your junior year. So that's 2 years, and you got time. Last but not least, once your pre-major requirements have been completed, you must declare or change your major, which means you are declaring ultimately or petitioning to go into the full major. So there's action on you that you'll have to take once you've met those coursework requirements to ultimately say, hey, I want to move from pre-major status into the full major. So that's why I say change in major, but it's not really. They're going from pre-major, pre-com to full major communications, no pre in front of it. We're taking a look at an example for pre-political science and pre-biological sciences. And I don't want you all to get overwhelmed, but I wanted to do a compare and contrast between the two different majors. For pre-major in political science, it really is just a matter of completing 3 courses, either political science 1, 6, 7, or 12, equating to 15 units total, completing an additional course, Poli-Sci 15, equating to 5 units total, and then completing some preparation for the major courses. And that's going to range between 5 to 10 units, depending on if you take Econ 1 and 2 or Econ 9. And that's it for pre-major. Again, it'll go into more detail on the UCSB course catalog, what those GPA expectations are, as well as the grade requirements. But pre-political science, I will tell you, they're asking for you to have a 2.6 or higher GPA for all of your pre-major and major prep courses. Okay, feasible, right? Not too shabby. For pre-biological sciences, you'll note that there are more courses that are going to be required. And this is going to be very similar, and I'll go back just a little bit to show you. As you see, some of the molecular and cellular and developmental biology, even the chem and biochemistry, while there's going to be some slight changes to the courses that are required, they're pretty similar in that we're going to be asking, and I'll say we, your department is going to be asking for you to complete these courses. And to complete these courses with a 2.0 or higher GPA. You can see that that GPA is lowered from pre-political science. So I think the department is giving you more grace because there's more courses for you to complete. Once again, I'll direct you to go to our UCSB course catalog. Those major and pre-major requirement sheets are available. So take a look to explore what those requirements are, what the GPA expectations are, and the timeline. Please keep in mind that for my students that have been admitted to the university, again, congratulations. But in the summertime, if you decide to join us for orientation, you will work with your academic advisor and have this conversation about pre-major requirements and what it'll take for a degree completion. So know that that conversation will come, and it'll come in the summertime. So finally, let's go ahead and talk about declaring the full major. So the timing of when any given student can declare a major and the requirements for doing so are going to vary department to department. And we talked about the timeline conversation. Usually, students need to complete those pre-major requirements before their junior year, but it might vary. So you really want to do a triple check and work with your academic department to confirm that timeline. Throughout the process from orientation all the way to the end of your sophomore year, you should be at the very least doing quarterly check-ins with your academic department to make sure that you're on track to complete that pre-major so that you can then petition for that full major change. Know that change is not going to be automatic. I'm using change of major loosely because we're going to talk about the true change of major process in a little bit, but that really is what you're doing. You're kind of changing your major from pre-major into the full major, and it's not an automatic process. Just because you've completed your courses and got that eligible GPA, you won't be automatically transitioned into your full major. You have to petition to do so, and it has to be initiated by you. Okay, so please, again, along the way, work with your academic advisor for your department and or college. Now, let's talk about the change of major process because I know maybe some students out there have questions that have been admitted, but maybe are now considering a different major. And I hope the pre-major conversation didn't scare you away from your intended major. Again, it is just a formality. It's a few courses that you have to complete. Those courses are going to be applicable to your degree progress. It's going to be okay. But if you want to change your major, let's just have that conversation. So we have two different periods within the Office of Admissions in which we accept change of major. I'm going to direct you to the QR code that's on the screen that will take you to our change of major website. So know that that resource is going to be available for you. Now, for students that are going to apply come next year and that they've submitted their application and they realize they now want to change majors, well, for those students that recently submitted their application, they can change their major during the December 1 through December 31st window. So that's the first window that's available. In January and February, up until mid-March, we are reviewing applications. We're reading students' applications. We unfortunately just do not have the staffing capacity to begin changing majors because we're trying to make admission decisions at that point. So we are closing the change of major process within the Office of Admissions, and applicants will be able to change their major after admission decision. So those students that have been admitted, you're welcome to submit a change of major request between mid-March all the way up until May 31st. We'll talk about the nuances of change of major in just a second, but know that there are those two windows that are available for change of major. For any student that might be in the session today that was placed on the wait list, know that you cannot change your major at this time because a decision has not technically been made. You can also not change your major if you were denied admission and are now appealing for admission to UCSB. We will not accept within the Office of Admission change of major pretty much in the summertime. So beginning June and on, this is really during orientation and you're going to start registering for courses. Our office will no longer accept change of major. You're going to have to work with your academic department and your academic advisors. In the summertime as well, our office is verifying all of your transcripts. We're verifying all of your exam scores, AP and IB exam scores, and we're trying to give you credit. We're trying to give you course credit for the college coursework and or AP exam credit that you receive college credit for. And so during that summer document verification point, we're not able to take change of major. Again, you're going to work with your academic advisor. Now, change of major within the College of Letters and Science is going to be very flexible in general, right? We talked about this earlier, how we don't admit students by major. Well, if that's the case, which it is, that means that we're really flexible with changing your major within the College of Letters and Science, excluding dance and music. So if you got admitted into art within the College of Letters and Science and you now want to change your major to communication, go ahead and email us. You can email us at admissions@ucsb.edu and let us know that you would like to change your major. Now, as I mentioned, dance or music, because there is a supplemental application in the form of an audition, faculty have a say on who gets admitted. So that change in major conversation can be really challenging because at this point, faculty have already determined who they want into the program. So it really is going to be on them to make the exception for that change in major request. Same conversation for College of Creative Studies. They require a supplemental application upon applying to the university. And after students have been admitted, at that point, they have their College of Creative Studies class. So if there's any student that is interested in changing major to College of Creative Studies, it's going to require approval, and it's also going to still require a supplemental application to be submitted. Know that in general, if you're requesting a change of major and you're emailing the Office of Admissions all the way up until May 31st, we will accept those change of major requests, but it may take up to 2 weeks for us to process those change of major requests. College of Engineering is a whole separate conversation. Within College of Engineering, change of major is highly inflexible, okay? If a student were admitted into College of Letters and Science and now wanted to change into College of Engineering, know that that's going to be very challenging and highly unlikely. First things first, for any student that wants to request a change of major, and I want to emphasize request again because you are requesting a change of major, it is not a guarantee. But if you request that you want to go into the College of Engineering, you must submit your SIR, Statement of Intent to Register, in order to be considered for that change of major. That's step number one. You'll have to go in with that request, understanding that there are going to be limited spaces available for change of majors into engineering because engineering is already impacted. We also will prioritize waitlisted students, and if there's room to admit additional students into engineering, we will prioritize those waitlisted engineering students before we moved forward with change of major requests that came from an outside college. Now, if you are thinking about changing majors after summer, so upon your enrollment to UCSB into engineering, you will have to work with the academic department, but it's going to be the same conversation in that it's going to be very challenging to change your major into engineering. Well, let's say you want to change your major outside of engineering. You are an engineering student and you now want to go into College of Letters and Science. You're still going to email us and let us know. And then after summer, you will want to work with your academic department to request that change of major. Know that if you are thinking about changing majors and you've requested it into engineering after you submitted your SIR, we might not be able to have a confirmation for you of whether or not that request was approved until maybe July and all the way up until the end of July at that. All right. Now, no, after May, for my students that have been admitted, at this point, we're verifying all of your admission materials that you submitted to us, so transcripts, and then we are going to send everything off to the orientation office so that they are prepared to enroll you into the courses that you actually need to complete your degree. So if you completed any college level coursework or AP exam coursework and you got college credit, orientation will have that information, and then they will be able to during orientation, enroll you into certain courses that you do need. Now, I mentioned this earlier and I'll just kind of repeat it. So, for engineering in itself, again, there's flexibility to change out of the College of Engineering, but major change into College of Engineering after you enroll to UCSB, so thinking about the fall, is still going to be very, very competitive. You're gonna want to work with your academic advisor to request that change in major, and then usually engineering is going to require that students have completed at least 30 units before they can receive potential approval to change majors into engineering. Wow, I know that was so much information about free majors and change of majors. And I know that thank you so much, Lali, for addressing some of the questions that have already been asked in the Q&A. At this point, if you do have any additional questions, feel free to ask them in the Q&A. I just want to share a few additional reminders for you all. So, for those of you that have not already signed up for a virtual open house, it is never too late. Well, up until the end of April, we will continue to have virtual open house events very similar to this one. So if you're interested in learning more about UCSB, I encourage you to join one of our sessions. We have a few sessions that are coming up within the week. Yep, the rest of this week we have additional sessions that are available. But starting next week, you can see we have career services that will be stopping by and providing an overview. We have the Army ROTC program. Yep, that's right. Our Surf Rider Battalion will be stopping through to share information about their scholarships and their program itself. We'll have Study Abroad join us on April 15th, as well as additional faculty lectures, such as on 427, The World of Costume Design, and 428, Anti-Black Hair Injustice. These are a part of our faculty lecture series, and you're more than welcome to register for any and all virtual open house events by scanning that QR code. And then, of course, I hope to see you all on our in-person open house on Saturday, April 11th. That is next weekend from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you haven't already registered to visit our campus, please register for our virtual open house, excuse me, our in-person open house today so that you can see our beautiful campus. We'll have our recreation fair, we'll have our student orgs tabling, we'll have our academic departments and colleges providing presentations and faculty lectures. It is an extravaganza that I hope you all are able to join. With that being said, of course, stay connected with us. I'm going to go ahead and address some Q&A and we will go ahead and stop the recording. But let's go ahead and chat on some of the questions that you all have. There we go. Boom. Stop recording.